He was told he had been arrested on suspicion of Grinner's murder. The prosecutor said, "You made no comment." CB replied, "Correct." The prosecutor said, "You knew you were on the road with your good friend Cater that night." CB says no. The prosecutor says, "You chose no explanation because you didn't have a good one to give." CB said no. "I was acting on legal advice."
I cannot believe this. I just cannot believe it. I'm trying to dip it.
Make no comment. The prosecutor said the attacker wanted to make sure they couldn't be identified, didn't they? "Yes," replied CB. "We heard that the main attacker was a 6'1" man." "Yes," replied CB. "The second man was 5'7". "Yes," replied CB. "You're 6'1", aren't you?" "Yes," replied CB. "Your friend Cater is 5'7", said the prosecutor. "I believe so," replied CB. "Would agree that the witness who saw all that happened said that they saw two people and mentioned a notable height difference." "Yes," replied CB.
But I don't even know if you had. Is this actually for real?
"Both of your DNA was found there and both heights fit you." "Yes," replied CB. Cater's DNA, his co-defendant, was found on a knife cover, a knife sheath, which was left at the crime scene. The prosecutor then took CB through his gang life. CB said he joined the Wood Grange gang when he was about 13 or 14, and by 2016, when he was 18, he was selling drugs for them, including as part of County Line's team operating in the Suffolk town of Bury St Edmunds. I've never heard of Bury St Edmunds. One second, my people. Bro, this is, man said, Colchester, Ipswich, Norwich. I ain't never heard of this place, you know. But I've driven to Norwich before. My uncle took me to a football match. Well, not a football match, a Tottenham game in Norwich years ago. Like when I was a kid, bro. I'm talking like I was like 8 years old or something. So we must have driven around these sides. Let's see. Yeah, you're going to stick out like a sore thumb in a place like this, mate. There's a nice church there, but back to it. CB said that his role was to transport the drugs from London to that town that I just showed you guys, stay inside the trap house, and to manage the money and make sure it got back to the gang in the capital, London City. CB said because he was black and it was a very white area, he could not risk going out and dealing and had to delegate that task to local drug users and addicts who would get their drugs free or heavily discounted. The prosecutor questioned him about how he would enforce such discipline and make sure drugs weren't stolen in the small town I just showed you guys. CB's replies were quite ridiculous and ignored his fearsome reputation. And yeah, CB had a bro. CB was a feared guy, bro. CB had a reputation, all right? He did. "What would you say to people who lost drugs?" CB said, "I'd be annoyed. I'd probably shout at them." The prosecutor asked him about his street name, CB, or Cracky Blacks. The prosecutor said it related to him dealing crack cocaine. "That would be wrong," replied CB. The prosecutor then went on to ask him about his brief career in drill music. "It was brief, but it was very impactful. Drill music is all about violence." "Yes," replied CB. Now, but one of the most, respected drill rappers in the drill scene in open court has just said, yes, drill music is all about violence. "Gangs? Not always," replied CB. "Gang violence? Yes," he replied. "Gang tensions? Yes," he said. "What happens within these territories?" "Yes," he confirmed. "It can be about control of an area." "Yes," he replied. "Warnings to other gangs to keep out." "Yes," replied CB. The prosecutor then asked him about the lyric of the track Armed and Ready. And we heard that earlier. I played it to you earlier. "No face, no case, no Evie." The prosecutor asked him what the lyric meant. He said that means that if you can't see the person's face, they won't get arrested easily. The prosecutor said these are the sort of things being sung about in drill songs. "Yes," replied CB. The prosecutor asked him how many people would appear in a drill music video. "It varies from 10 to 30, said CB. Mr. Orchard, the prosecutor, referring to the statement of an expert witness, said, "It's often delivered in uncompromising and offensive language." "Yes," he replied. "Why so violent?" That's when CB replied, saying drill music is violence. That's what sells. The more graphic, the more gory, the more disrespectful, the more it sells. The prosecutor said it's all about what you have done in order to build credibility and authenticity. "Yes," replied CB. "Is that what you were trying to do?" "Yes," replied CB. "If you kill someone, that would improve your status as well." "Within drill music, yes," replied CB. The prosecutor then asked him about diss tracks aimed at rival gangs. CB said sometimes videos would be just shared between friends, but he said normally it's publicized.